America's largest promotion and events company has just picked a fight with every single musician in the entire world.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Live Nation this week sent a memo to live agents setting out its proposal for the thing that cannot be mentioned. Sorry guys, I do have to make a living somehow.
It is what it is.
For how it's going to renegotiate deals in 2021. And it is a big one. The memo sets out stipulations on festivals moving forward, including that there will be a 20% pay decrease across the board on all fees which have already been laid out and agreed. On top of this, artists will be in charge of their own insurance as well as their own travel. And if there's a problem with an event which is force majeure, which basically means the event can't go on for any reason, then the artist will not be paid any money whatsoever. Should the festival be cancelled or the act not be able to play because of a lack of ticket sales, then instead of the artist getting the full 100% fee, they will now only get 25% fee. And even bigger than that, if the artist pulls out or is in breach of contract for any reason whatsoever, they will be forced to pay double the fee that they would have received back to Live Nation. Firstly, in case you don't know, Live Nation are the biggest events and promoters in the entirety of the US, probably in the entire world, and they own Ticketmaster. They are not only in charge of over 100 festivals worldwide, but they also own hundreds of venues. They have a monopoly, and if at any point you are going to go on major tours, it is almost impossible to doing so without coming into contact in some way with Live Nation. To put that in perspective, in 2019, they made a gross of over $11.5 billion from over 40,000 concerts. That works out at over 100 concerts every single day. Every single day. And if you look back 10 years, they only made $4 billion. Now that's a lot of money, but if you think of 10 years to go from $4 billion to $11.5 billion, with their biggest pay increase coming in the last 3 years from 2016, you can see not only how powerful this company is, but also how powerful this company is also going on to become. The problem is artists don't make money from music anymore. We can't sell music as a physical thing. It isn't being sold on CDs because people listen to music and people consume it via Deezer, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. So if we want to make money from music, it pretty much has to come down to touring. It has to come down to gigs, touring, and merch. And where's the most merch sold? That's right, it's on tours. Now, when it comes to events and festivals, promoters take a risk. That is their job. They say, I want to put on an event. I will invest the money into this event in order to pay for acts to come and play. Those artists will be a big draw. Therefore, I can then sell tickets. The risk is on the promoter, but the reward is also on the promoter. I'm putting the gig on, I'm set to make the profit, therefore I should have all of the risk. The issue is, this is descaling the risk for the promoting company, and this is adding the extra risk to the musician, who, let's face it, are already getting a shit deal from the fact that we can't sell music in the first place. You see, my fear isn't with artists like the Foo Fighters. They're the big headline acts. And let's face it, when it comes to supply and demand, there aren't that many artists or bands that can draw crowds that size to headline the biggest of big festivals. My issue is with the artists that are halfway down the bill. My issue is with the artists that are on stage 2 or even stage 3. They need these gigs to keep the doors open. They need these slightly bigger paydays to stay on tour. Otherwise, they won't be able to have a successful tour. So let's break some of the stuff down in this memo and see how bad it is, and more importantly, how this is going to start affecting you as a musician. So the first thing, the pay cut, the 20% instant pay cut on what has already been agreed. Okay, do you know what? I can actually get behind this because we've all taken a massive kick in. We've all had all of our gigs pulled, including Live Nation, even though they make $11.5 billion a year. We've all taken a hit, so let's all get together and do something together. 20% off seems like something that we can all do in order to get the show back on the road. But what about the insurance? Insurance is skyrocketing, and over the last 3 or 4 months, we have seen festivals tank and insurance claims not pay out. But that's part of the risk versus the reward. You have that insurance for when you build the business should something go wrong. How unfair is it to pass on those massively skyrocketing insurance premiums to the actual band itself, who are in no way going to be able to afford this? And even if they could, can you imagine the admin that's going to go into this for every band who's trying to stay on the road at the best of times? That is completely and utterly unfair. Not to mention that you've already got the travel. Now you're in charge of your own travel. Not only do you have to book it, you have to pay for it. But what's even worse is you might not even know how much you're going to get paid for these things because of the way that things have been wrapped up together. This is a colossal disaster. And what about the poor ticket sales? If there's poor ticket sales and we have to pull the festival, then you get 25% of something that you would have had 100% of if it had gone ahead. And on top of that, this might have been booked in for 6 months. You might have not put a tour on. You might have not booked other festivals because of this particular gig. So therefore, if they pull it because of poor ticket sales and you lose out, what does that mean? It means when you get asked if you want to play a festival, you start scanning through, hang on, who else is playing it? Because if I don't see other acts on this bill that can pull the same as we can, we might get penalized for it, and that isn't going to happen. Meaning everyone is now going to be very, very careful whether they say yes or no to any festival. And what happens if you get sick? As a musician who's done 2,000 gigs, sometimes you get ill and the show must go on, but sometimes you physically can't. What happens when the drummer breaks his foot? What happens when the singer loses his voice? There's certain things that you physically can't get out of, and you can't do the gig without the main front person and the singer of that band, but you're going to have to, because otherwise you are going to pay twice as much money as you would have received to the promoter. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Bands cannot do it, even if they say that they will. You can see how big an issue this is because it's now shifting all of that risk onto the band who cannot tour without doing something with Live Nation. It's practically impossible because there's a monopoly. So how does this work? You can't do this without Live Nation. You have to do it with Live Nation. Therefore, you have to sign the stipulation, even to the point where they are now taking even more money out of the merchandise. The merchandise is where the musicians can literally get the petrol to get to the next gig. This is completely unacceptable. Live Nation have got artists over a barrel and they know it. And yeah, maybe some of the shareholders didn't get their annual payout. Oh, boo-hoo. In this time of Corona, musicians literally have no work. They literally have no income, nothing at all, and they rely on this income. Furthermore, these are changes to the festivals, which means there's more changes to normal tours and gigs just down the line. This is the tip of the iceberg as far as I can see, because once they get these hooks into the festivals, they're going to start putting this into normal gigs because they own so many venues. From this memo, it sounds like the next thing that's coming is door deals for musicians. We can't afford to give you a one-off appearance fee because we don't know whether we're going to get that money back. So therefore, we will offer you a share of the door. The problem is, how can bands possibly budget when they don't know what their income is? Fair enough. You're a new band, you go and hire a van and you're just trying to get to the next gig and you're trying to get petrol. That's fair enough. But when you start to build your way up through the ladder and have that fan base that allows you to tour, and you're bringing 500 to 1,000 people to a show, that means you need to budget, because how big a stage are you bringing? What lighting are you bringing? What crew are you bringing? And how are you going to bring them if you don't know how many people you're going to bring? Are you in a splitter van, or are you in a coach? Are you in a tour bus that's going to take you from country to country? Should you be flying people out? Should you not? You can't fly people out for 25% of your tour, because some of it pays and some of it doesn't. It's physically impossible to plan this without knowing how much you're going to make from the actual tour. This will mean that you can only physically tour if you have already sold out your show. And think about the venues. Venues are struggling at the best of times trying to get people in to watch bands. This could be the final nail in the coffin to many venues that most bands, especially the up-and-coming bands, they cut their teeth on. I'm pissed off with this. This is completely unacceptable. I don't mind evolution. The fact that consumption habits have changed and therefore streaming is a thing was one thing. But this is different. An entrepreneur who puts on an event, takes the risk in order to get the reward, shouldn't be able to take the risk away and still get the reward whilst the band takes it in the shitter. So what can we do about it? Well, the first thing that we have to do is you guys have to take things like YouTube and Facebook ads seriously, because you need an audience that will stick by you. Because if it means that you are going to have to find ways of bypassing AEG or Live Nation, then that will have to be a thing. And the only way you can do that is if you have control. As musicians, we have to have control. We do not need a record label anymore, but we do need to be able to go and play gigs. In order to do that, we do need control of our audience. We now have the ability to do that, but it's tough. So you have to learn how this works. We are in a time where if you are not in control, you are going to get eaten alive, because labels will have a big loan on you. They will say, yes, we'll give you the money, but we'll expect it back 300% on everything, and then we own you. And now it looks like Live Nation want to do the same thing. The only way you can get around this, if you are in control of moving forward. You also need to be able to understand basic Facebook ads so that you can get the right message to the right people. So therefore, whilst you are building your audience and using Facebook ads to build your audience, you can sell to them, whether that's merch or your own tickets. And yes, I understand it's not the desired perfect way of doing things, but right now, needs must. I get it, 2020 has been pretty disastrous for most people, but one more time, who's the ones who are set to lose out more than everybody else? Yeah, it's the musicians, again. And if we are going to boycott the system, there is only one way of doing that. And that is for you to not be the puppet, but to be the puppet master. We have to take control, and the way of doing that is for you to understand how the new system works. So guys, tell me what you think. I'm thoroughly pissed off with this. This is unacceptable, and it's another kicking for musicians, but I want to know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this will evolve into something bigger? Or maybe do you think the larger bands have got enough leverage and enough of the monopoly to take that power back? Or are we destined to start losing venues? Are we destined for musicians to take it right in the pooper one more time? Let me know what you think, but more importantly, cheer me up, because this has been a very dark one. So, maybe hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. But more importantly, just come and be a part of this community and cheer me up. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.